Bro, if PJ Washington's going to shoot fireballs from three, then we have to live with it.
How many years now have I been just beating the drum of PJ Washington? Come on, acquire him, contenders. What are you doing? Sign him last summer. Trade for him ahead of the deadline last year. Trade for him this year. And then Dallas does that, and he has the game of his life tonight. 11 of 18 from the field, 11 rebounds, 29 points, defending everywhere, beating switches inside. PJ Washington was awesome. I could beat that drum tonight. The Thunder side of things, I beat that on the draft show with Rob Mahoney on Tuesday night. We can talk about them losing tonight.
Do you want to know what was so ironic about PJ Washington's game tonight? Is that it gave you flashbacks to Grant Williams against the Bucks, right? When we always think about the other guys, and it's like this unassuming power.
You got those? Your brain went to those flashbacks of Grant Williams. He was the last thing on my mind tonight.
Really?
Yeah. You're thinking because the hot 3-point shooting. That's why, right?
Like when
the last name
Earth,
sharing a last name.
Well, they don't share a last name, but when on Earth,
sharing the W. Sorry, the first, the last. I mean, like what else? They don't play alike.
It is a power forward, one of which was on that team earlier this year, and they both had what the hell? I can't believe that guy hit that many threes performances. That's how it was very reminiscent of when Grant Williams came in and knocked down 7 threes. It was like swing. Okay. Oh my God, if this guy's going to make 7 threes, you're in trouble.
Well, one of the reasons why I was so high on him entering last offseason is because of one of the games he had against Oklahoma City. That season, he had a career-high 43 points in the game on 5 3-pointers against Oklahoma City when he was still playing with Charlotte, and that was in Oklahoma as well. So with PJ Washington, he's had some performances when he's playing on bad teams where he just gets scorching hot from 3 or scorching hot with pull-up mid-rangers. And with him, like the scoring is the cherry on top. It's everything else that you have him for with his versatility, the like creation out of the short roll, the finishing at the rim. But when he catches fire, like he did tonight, that's where he can swing a game for you on top of the stability that he can provide with his kind of foundational skill set. So in some ways, I know it's surprising when he hasn't shot the ball well at all, pretty much since getting acquired by Dallas. He's near 30% from 3. He's not shot the ball well from the free throw line either, for that matter. But he has a long history when he was with Charlotte of having just out of nowhere huge scoring performances.
I got you. But I mean, I think if you're Oklahoma City, you were playing for like that's who you want taking those shots. Yes. A la Grant Williams, a la Rui Hachimura, a la, you remember last year, Lonnie Walker in a game. It's like the game plan is for these other guys, if we're picking our poisons, if it's swing, and he's going to make the shots, and him and Hardaway Jr., both. We always talk about the other guys and who's going to step up because, Kyrie Irving did not do much tonight from a scoring perspective. Luka had big numbers in the end, but was laboring, and 16 of his 29 came in the first quarter of that game. Obviously made some big plays late, and then you had this rotating cast of bigs, mostly Gafford. He was at least able to come back in the game, but he's got this bum hand. And then, like, Lively and Jones Jr. are missing, like, everything they take at the rim, except for, like, a dunk. And I mean, like, the Lively thing was just crazy. It was like, bro, can this guy not score?
How many bunnies did they miss at the rim?
It was unbelievable. And he had a size advantage, like a big size advantage on many of them.
Lively puts a lid on the rim, but it's usually on defense.
I know.
On offense.
Yeah, it was certainly on offense. But the huge contributions from Tim Hardaway and obviously PJ Washington. When we always talk about the other guys and who's going to step up, I thought it was fascinating. The other day, my son had a half day at school, and so he had gone over to my mom's house where I had to pick him up late in the afternoon. And when I got to my mom's house, he had not stayed up for game one. So he had it on in the living room when I walked in, which made me proud. He was watching, he was catching up with it. I sat down on the couch and he knew what ends up happening in the game, but it was crazy. And I wrote this down tonight. So in game one, as we were watching it, there's like 6.5 minutes left in the third quarter. It's a 2-point game. It's 69-67 in game one. And then, of course, the quarter ends the way it does with Oklahoma City starting this run. They're up by 10 at the end of the third quarter. And I'll be damned, the same exact thing happened tonight, except it was completely reversed. I was like, oh, are they going to do this again? So when I went down, the point was when I sat down and was watching game one back, I'm like, man, this is late in the game. I mean, I know they got their ass kicked. They lost by 30 in this game. Like, what? This was a 2-point game with 6 minutes to go in the third. And then tonight, 80-79 with 5 minutes left in the third. It's a 1-point game. And then you had that barrage. Hardaway Jr. gets fouled twice on threes. PJ Washington hits a big one. There's a Kyrie shot involved there. And just a bunch of stops and runouts. And they scored 19 points in the last 5 minutes of that quarter. And then, obviously, the 10-point lead was enough to be able to hold on to it in the fourth. They were impressive, man.
They were. I mean, Dallas's defense was outstanding tonight.
Yep.
I mean, they were locked in. They were rotating well. They were staying down. They weren't jumping at pump fakes or little pivots and, the SGA does and all that. They didn't foul. They played fundamental, disciplined basketball. And I felt like the tone was set at the top. Kyrie Irving may have only had 9 points in the game, but he had 11 assists. He had 2 blocks, 2 steals. He set a tone on defense. He was locked in from start to finish, off ball, on ball. He looked like a prepared, ready guy who was game planning to pounce in certain moments. Like there was one play, Chet Holmgren took the ball up the floor, and like as soon as like the ball kind of like reached his hand while he was dribbling, Kyrie pounced like a snake, like just completely ripped the ball away. Got one of his 2 points and transition with a nice layup off the glass. And it was like, this is a guy who game planned for that moment to be ready for Chet, kind of like a slight lackadaisical moment when he's handling the ball, 7-footer, getting the offense in, and he was ready for it. I felt like Kyrie the entire night was like that on ball, off ball, both on offense and defense. He was awesome despite not scoring.
Yeah, Hubie Brown even mentioned that he's done this at least 4 times on the pokeaways from like Jalen Williams, where he would get beat off the dribble, but then he'd slap it away. And then in the most crucial part, I'm glad you highlighted Kyrie, most crucial part of the game, the last gasp for Oklahoma City, he locks down SGA, and then they go down on the other end, miss a shot. He grabs the offensive rebound, which basically sealed the game. Like, Kyrie was making all the plays outside of scoring tonight. I mean, really, really good all around.
It reminded me of the finals the Cavaliers won with Kyrie. Mm-hmm. That year, he was a two-way beast. Yep. He was locking in on defense. I remember David Griffin, their GM at the time, at the Sloan conference, was raving about Kyrie. He's like, we need to get that version of Kyrie all the time. I always tell him he can be one of the best two-way players in the league every night. And boom, well, that's what Dallas is getting right now. One of the best two-way players in the league, because when he's playing like that on defense, he has proven for years now, going back to Cleveland, that he can be that.
Well, and that old adage of, I can look at the, Greg Popovich famously said, you could give me the box score, I could look at the 3-point totals, and I could tell you who won the game, right? Making a mockery of the way the NBA is now. But this was a hot shooting 3-point night for Dallas, and this was not a good 3-point shooting night for Oklahoma City. Now, you can obviously...
You want to know the record this year, Chris? I looked it up tonight during the games because it happened in both games tonight where, Dallas got, they outshot Oklahoma City and Cleveland outshot Boston from 3. In the playoffs, so far. 51 games have been played. 41 teams have won when they have a higher 3-point percentage. So
wow.
Teams have won when they only 10 times with a lower 3-point percentage.
Of all the games that have been played.
41-10. That's a 67 win pace.
Greg Popovich was right.
Yeah, all you got to do is shoot a higher percentage from three. If you shoot a higher percentage from three in the playoffs, you are 41-10 this year.
Well, and what you're seeing now is these, and you saw it in both games, especially with the adjustment the teams made from teams that were able to make threes in the first one, which was, we are going to close out so fast on all of these that we're going to make you make the decision to drive past us. And we're fine with that. Because now we can get active hands, we can tap the ball away, but we're not allowing you. We're going to keep running you off that line, to the point where you can then allow the star player to really go off. And that's, SGA was amazing tonight, right? His game's not predicated on that. But all of the guys that he sets up by getting the paint touches, the drive and kick, drive and slash, all this kind of stuff, like, you're seeing these teams get much more aggressive and be much higher. Cleveland was much higher in terms of where they were picking guys up. And you also saw it with Dallas, to where even their bigs were going to go out there and they were going to contest. And so you didn't see that level of comfortability. Whereas, on the other hand, you saw more open looks, but I think it was, I don't think that was, to me, that's by design. It's like, all right, we're willing to give that up. If there is something we are giving up, if PJ Washington hits 7 threes, then we've got to tip our cap. And if Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to get 10 points in 1 minute, then we got to tip our cap. But, like, obviously our focus is going to be on Luka and Kyrie and the things that they want to do. And so it's going to be interesting to see. This is going to be a very, very good series for sure. And I'll be interested to see how Oklahoma City adjusts. I wouldn't be surprised if they just go back out and say, bro, if PJ Washington's going to shoot fireballs from three, then we have to live with it.
Well, the flip side of this for OKC, you're seeing what Dallas is doing to Josh Giddey. Oklahoma City may need to bench Josh Giddey.
He's unplayable. He is unplayable.
They may have to. In game 2, he's a minus 20 in 11 minutes. In game 1, he's the only rotation player on OKC that had a minus in the game, despite playing only 17 minutes. He's getting completely outplayed by Isaiah Joe,
Aaron Wiggins,
Wallace, Aaron Wiggins. Those guys are playing more minutes. They look more effective. The offense runs better without Giddey. For all the youth that OKC has, I know Chet didn't have a great game too, but Giddey's the only one who looks overmatched skill-wise, physically-wise. And I think Daigneault, we're seeing him go from 17 minutes in game 1, 11 minutes in game 2. It would not shock me one bit if he's just completely benched moving forward in the series.
Well, he didn't even bring him in the second half until late.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, you were pretty deep into the second half before he even stepped on the floor. And I think you're right. There's just not really a place for him in this series. And I think it was even more stark when you get into those half-court sets. You know, both of these teams are so contingent on their defense really fueling their offense, because then they can get stops and they can get out in space, and they're both very dangerous. And one of the things that I liked about Dallas is I thought that they would be able to control tempo. These scores are still getting, and there's enough shots going up that I don't think it is vastly in their favor. I thought they would drag it more into the mud, but you want to make Oklahoma City play as much half-court basketball as possible. And if that is so, and they are having to play that much half-court basketball, to your point, Giddey is useless. He's useless. Nobody's even guarding him. Like, what does it matter? Fine, stand out there. Like, especially because Giddey is the kind of guy that could create things, but he has to have the ball in his hands. Like, the non-shooting guy has to be able to have the ball in his hands, so now he's a driving kicker.
It's the Ben Simmons problem.
Right. He's not going to have the ball in his hands. We're taking the ball out of SGA's hands?
Jalen Williams, for that matter, or even Chet.
Right. It is very Ben Simmons-y. Because he does all that. He does everything else really well.
Even though Giddey has, in the regular season, it's different to have shooting success in the regular season than it is in the playoffs. With the pressure, with the defense, the harder closeouts, everything combined together, it's harder to shoot in the playoffs.
I promise you, there's nothing more that Jason Kidd wants than for Josh Giddey to shoot it.
Oh, for sure.
Shoot as much. Hey, please shoot it 30 times if you want. That's fine. Because everybody else on their roster shoots 45% from three, it seems like.
But I do think that's what we're going to see Dagnall do on the OKC side, is Giddey goes down from maybe 11 minutes to 0 minutes, or maybe one rotation, 5 minutes.
I think it's Wiggins' spot. He was the one that impressed me the most.
Wiggins is great. He's such a good role player. I mean, OKC fans know how good he's been all year long. Two-way guy. I mean, Isaiah Joe provides the knockdown shooting, and Wallace provides the defense. But Wiggins is like that, a little bit of both.
I like those guys coming off the bench.
I do too. I agree with you. I like both of them. I just like the energy off the bench. But Wiggins, to me, is the guy, whether he's starting or just playing more minutes. Wiggins is the right guy to be replacing Giddey for the most part with those minutes.
Well, and he has started Isaiah Joe in the past for the spacing, right? When you get to this point, it's all about spacing, and the more spacing you could create for SGA, who was, by the way, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
he was great. Just, this is the ebb and flow of a series. When you've got teams that are worth their salt, and I told you at the beginning of this, like when one gets waxed in game one, more often than not, you see them make some real adjustments and come back in game two, and now it starts. Now you've kind of seen each other, and now we're going to see who's got the goods to be able to make those adjustments. We talked about what Dagnall's going to do, and then the challenge is going to be for Jason Kidd. How does he adjust to the next time around? And it is such a weird deal that Jason Kidd never wins game one and then always wins game two. But they say he's 0-5, but 3 of the last 4, he's now won game two.
Yeah.
It's like it's like game one is just okay, let's see what you guys want to do game. Because and a lot of those they've gotten run out in game ones. Clippers ran them out, and obviously Oklahoma City ran them out. But then game two, they responded in both of them. So you figure it out. I don't know. And then it's going to settle in. This is going to be a long series. I didn't walk away from tonight's game thinking, oh, Dallas has got their number. I mean, Dallas made a bunch of threes, and Oklahoma City couldn't make anything.
I mean, I think we both agree it's going to go at least 6 or 7, just for
sure.
Different winners.